evening and welcome everybody to our workshop number 3 of 9 for Toastmasters Leadership Institute. Today's workshop is titled My Path to a District Leadership Role. Our moderator tonight is none other than the very accomplished Declan Shalvey. I want to make sure I say that. Thank you. He is joined by a very esteemed panel of 3 Toastmasters members, and they are Henry Miller, Faye and Chandana Kalluri. All 3 panel members and Declan are distinguished Toastmasters, and they bring a wealth of experience with them and are excited to share with you what they know. My name is Ravina Suri, and I'm your host for tonight. Joining me is Carrie Lynn Morgan, who is our tech guru. Before I give the floor to Declan, I want to acknowledge the contributions of several people who have made this event possible. I'd like to acknowledge Michael Prabhu, and I'd also like to acknowledge the district's PR team, the district's tech team, and the district's web team. Thank you all for making it so possible to have this workshop. Now, please help me in welcoming Declan to introduce the panelists to you. Take it away, Declan.
Thank you, Ravina. We do indeed have a very distinguished panel composition this evening. As Ravina has pointed out, we're all DTMs, although for this meeting, I have changed the definition of DTM. We've agreed it is, don't time me tonight. So the point is, we're going to try and keep the meeting moving, and our panelists will be brief but to the point so that we can impart as much information as possible on the subject matter. Again, thanks to all our guests, our attendees for attending this evening. My role is as moderator, and as such, I'll lead the panel discussion through the agenda. And essentially the way we've decided to structure this is there are 3, this is a Toastmasters meeting, of course, so there are 3 main points. First of all, we'll talk about the roles in district leadership. Then we'll talk about the benefits of those roles, both to the individuals and to the district. And then lastly, we'll have a discussion on how do we get on that journey to district leadership. That's our agenda. I'm going to spend about 30 minutes on that, and we will finish up with the Q&A. So, but before we get started, I'm going to ask the panelists, in the order that Ravina introduced them, to just talk a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself with a particular emphasis on your experience and history in district leadership. Henry.
Well, it has been a long and winding road, I must say. I still remember when I came on here today and I saw Solazar. It took me back to when I first got to know anything about Toastmasters. I had just arrived from New York to start life all over, and I wanted an avenue to express myself and my feelings. And I attended my very first, it was not a Toastmasters meeting, it was a Toastmasters convention, pretty much. And I met Solazar, and he inspired me. And I have always looked towards him as someone, and the many other people I have met along the way, like Linda Kenny, Ken Cawley, Diane Vaughn, who have inspired me to keep moving forward. And that has been my journey in Toastmasters. Just people, good people around who have good men, people who I have admired, who have inspired me to keep moving forward until I even went into leadership. And that was a totally different ball game for me. It opened up a lot of different avenues, a lot of experiences that I will forever be indebted for. So we are here today to talk about the values of taking the leadership role. And I want to say that I have benefited tremendously from being a district leader. Back to you, Mr. Declan.
Thank you, Henry. May I ask Faye to introduce herself?
Hi, everyone. I joined Toastmasters not quite 2 decades ago, but close. And since then, I served many, many different club officer roles. And it did take a couple years of some area directors asking, hey, would you be interested? And I was always kind of hesitant. But since the time that I stepped up as an area director, I've continued to be involved in different district leadership roles. And I've really found that these roles have helped me not only learn new skills, but it helped me break out of my little shell. Before, I would never really go and talk to a lot of people, and you might see me still in the corner of the room in a real in-person event, but I'm a little bit more comfortable now talking to people, especially now that I've met so many friends within our district. And so I highly encourage everybody to try different roles. I've been an area director, just division director, public relations manager, and volunteered in other types of leadership roles. So there are many, many opportunities for everyone to explore. Declan?
Thank you very much, Faye. Chandana.
Hello, everyone. I joined Toastmasters 2.5 years ago. And the main reason I joined was to be able to connect and meet different people within the club. And then I became an area director. And not too long ago, I was standing in a room with similar faces, and I didn't know anybody. In fact, I saw so many of the faces here today giving a panel talk, giving a speech. And over time, I became a club mentor, I became a division director, and many of these faces have become familiar. I know them. I've built a personal relation with them, and some of them have become my mentors. And this was possible being a district leader, and it has benefited me and has helped me learn a lot in this journey, which is what I hope to share with all of you today.
Great, thank you very much. It occurs to me, and I'm sure it occurs to the rest of you, that we have got a very nice experience spread in this panel. Chandana, 2 years, and maybe we'll stop counting at 3 decades, Henry. I'm not sure exactly, but a wonderful spread, and I think that's going to be helpful to our discussions and perhaps to the transfer of information to the audience. Now let's begin. And before I get into the panel discussion per se, we have a very quick poll we'd like the audience to fill out for us. Carolyn, if you would launch that, I would be incredibly grateful to you.
My apologies, I think I closed that.
We'll feed those results back later, but it looks like we've got an interesting spread of people with experience. Here we go. Are these the final results?
No, I accidentally closed poll late.
Oh, okay.
I can relaunch it real quick, but.
No, it's okay. It looks like we've got quite a few, 3/4 have served as a club officer, and almost 50% of the audience is considering serving at a district level. We'll hope to improve that percentage over the course of this meeting. There's an additional question that doesn't lend itself to being placed in a poll, and I'd like you to use the chat room. The question is, what would you like to get out of today's workshop? So please feel free to load your thoughts in there. We'll review that and perhaps cover some of those objectives or your questions in the Q&A if we don't cover it as part of our plan session. Now let's start with the roles definition. Chandana, I'm going to ask you to speak first. And by the way, Chandana is the person who came up with this idea, and thank you for that, for this session. You have served as an AD, as you said, and I believe you're serving as a district director right now. Just give us an overview of the primary responsibilities of those two positions, because I sense that if somebody's thinking about a district role, this is where they may go first.
Right. So I served as an area director last year, and the main responsibility of the area director is you are leading, or you are in charge of 5 to 6 clubs within your area, and you would be responsible for ensuring that these clubs are able to do what's best to keep their club healthy, ensure that the members are getting the most out of their Toastmasters experience. So the way you would do that as an area director is you would visit these clubs, ensure that you are connected with the officers, and then you also have regular area council meetings with the officers and help them formulate a club success plan that helps with their club goals and club educational plan. So this is primarily an area director role. This year, I am a division director. So as a division director, I work with 5 to 6 area directors, and I work with them to develop an area success plan for the division on the whole, what the club success means, how each area director can work with their clubs to ensure that the members have the required to enjoy their Toastmasters experience. I think you're on mute, Declan.
Thank you, Chandana. Now I want to go to the other end of the leadership levels. And here's where I'm going to ask Henry to share his opinion. Now, Henry, I'm going to describe the top 3 roles in 1 or 2 sentences. It's straight from the district leadership handbook, and it's hopefully helpful to the people on the call. The district director. You are responsible for administering and overseeing the district's day-to-day operations, finances, and human resources. You're the only officer who is authorized to sign off on contracts. Now, there are other responsibilities, but that's the headline. The program quality director is primarily responsible for all aspects of education and training within the district. This includes supporting quality club programming efforts, promoting the DCP program, and planning, organizing, and executing district conferences. And lastly, the club growth director is responsible for all aspects of marketing, club building, club retention efforts within the district, and they define the overall marketing strategy for the district. A lot of additional information is available in the manual, but I want to ask you from your experience. You are a PDG. I used to think, Henry, that was a medical condition, but I believe it's the past district governor role. So give us your perspective of that leadership team and what their roles are about, please.
Well, as you went through the 3 different roles, the first thing that came to mind was stay in your lane. leadership does not mean ownership. And that concept I got very early. I got my team together and tried to get that understanding. Stay in your lane and take ownership of what is in your lane. And if that is executed properly and effectively, you will have a successful year. Back, as you said, just remember, back then it was district governor, and we were responsible for Bay to Bay, San Francisco to Monterey. And one of the things I tried to do was to visit as many clubs as I could and get them to understand the importance of following the Toastmasters program. And by just doing that, it made our lives so much easier. But just knowing that you could call the district governor back then, district director, or VP of education, or whatever, someone will be there to support you with your objectives and what you are trying to achieve, the goals you have achieved for your club. So I think it was very important, it is very important for leaders of the district to insist on clubs following the Toastmasters program, because if they do, then our district would be successful. And in a nutshell, that the three roles working together, supporting each other, will have an end result of a successful district.
That's great, Henry.
President's district, what do you call it?
Distinguished.
President distinguished and not presidents extinguished.
Yeah. Great. Henry, I really like that expression, stay in the lane, because for me, I think what I'm hearing is that you're suggesting that people should perform their roles to the best of their ability, and leaders should delegate, perhaps, and empower the people. That's part of what I think is implicit in your message in those senior roles.
Yeah, and don't try to be Columbus. Don't try to be Columbus. Yeah. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. This has been, this organization started back in 1924, and it has been progressing all the way. So stay with the program.
Excellent. Good advice, Henry. Now, Faye, there are a number of other roles that exist beyond what Chandana and Henry has talked about, the logistics, the finance, all the ventures. Tell us about those roles and what, I know you can't talk about all of them, but give us a sprinkling of what those roles and those responsibilities are about.
Sure. Those roles are all very important roles at the district level that help to run the district but are not really seen. You don't really see the people behind all the work. For me, I served as a public relations manager. So as a public relations manager, I helped to put together promotional programs or ways to promote the district programs, events, whether it was to send out all the newsletters that you might see, the letters from the district director that come out every month. And then there are different things that need to be posted on the website. These days, the district public relations manager also manages a new blog. We're getting in more and more into the digital age. So you'll see that we have a YouTube site. Meetup is also managed through the public relations manager. So everything that is online that helps to promote, whether it's the clubs, the areas, divisions, districts, our events, all our programs, that is all handled under the public relations manager umbrella. But of course, within that umbrella is a vast team, and that's where really the leadership comes in working and managing those teams of people in getting everyone to work together and to function successfully. Aside from the PRM, there are also the administration manager who do you know who takes care of the district credit? It's amazing because the district administration manager has to handle all these different requests from clubs on utilizing their district credit and tracking all that information, but you don't know. It's just a position there and you don't really see the person behind it. But there's a lot of work going on. There's not the logistics, but remind me, what was the other administration?
Administration, finance, logistics,
Finance,
all
that's
the
right.
event chairs.
Right. So finance, again, while the administration manager is the one that handles the district tracking, but finance, all the budgeting that the district has to take care of or think about throughout the year. We do have a budget that is provided through Toastmasters International that is partly funded through membership fees. And so how do we spend those? How much do we spend on the different programs? So all that is handled through the district finance manager. Those are the deck level, but you mentioned all the other ones, the volunteer roles, right? So many, like being a conference chair, being a contest chair at the district level. So there are so many, and we briefly mentioned being a mentor or a coach. Those are also leadership positions that you learn different types of skills of perhaps how to inspire, how to motivate, or how to be better at marketing or promoting things. I had absolutely no experience in PR when I stepped into the public relations role. But I learned a lot, not only the fine little things like using the Adobe suite, but just what are some of the tools that are effective in helping to promote a club, promote our district, promote our programs. So you step into a role, not really knowing everything that you'll get out of it, but I guarantee you'll get a lot more than you expected.
Great, thanks for that, Faye, very comprehensive. And listening to you describe those roles, it just occurred to me that so many of those skills that we learn in those roles are so transferable into our careers or into what I sometimes call the real world. So thank you for that. That was really very, very helpful. So now let's transition to the next major section of our discussion, and that is the benefits. The benefits to the individual who decides to follow the path of leadership in D101, and what are the benefits to the district? So it's that age-old question. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? So I'm going to stay with you, Faye, and I'm going to ask you to maybe just tell us a little bit about a personal story, about what you've got out of it. I see some questions in the chat. People want these stories. So tell us a little bit about what you have got out of it, essentially, over the 2 decades.
Back in the day when I served as an area director, or it was called area governor, we had 2 contests every year. So right at the start of the Toastmasters year, we had to start thinking about planning a contest. And it was a lot for area directors. You have to get to know your clubs and their members, and then you have to start planning this event. And I didn't really have a chance to get to know people. And I would say that back then, my train of thought was, oh, well, I could just do this on my own. But soon you find out, and I found out that while I can do it on my own, it's a lot of work. And so what I really learned from that was, it does take me some time, but eventually just getting to know all the club members in the 5 or 6 clubs that I directed, seeing what their strengths were, connecting with them, learning how to motivate and inspire them to step up and take on some of these leadership roles within our own area. Those are some of the things that I eventually kind of grew up and grew to learn to do more effectively. And eventually utilizing all these resources from around our club just by being there for them, letting our members know that we are there for them as their leaders to help them, to make them successful. And so with that type of acknowledgement, then I think they are more willing to work with you as a leader and to be part of your team. So I think just learning to inspire and motivate, and then eventually building that network and the commitment from the members, that was a big stepping stone for me. And eventually, you know, the big hurrah at the very end was eventually when I became a division director or a division governor, is having a big turnout at the division contest and having it well run and having it well planned by a team that I oversaw. But you know, it just culminated to that progress from not really depending on anyone and finally, you know, making baby steps and getting to know people, networking. That was, I think, a big achievement for me as far as my growth in the 2 years I served as an area and a division director.
Great. Faye, what comes across from that discussion is that you learned, you know, how to work with the broader teams, but I think you probably developed an enormous amount of confidence in yourself as a leader.
Definitely.
And I, in the time that I've known you, you're not particularly intimidated by any task. So I can see that confidence, it's alive and well. Now, Henry, the same question for you. Maybe some insight into the benefits that have accrued to you over the years from the leadership elements of Toastmasters. What would you say? I mean, did it build character? Did it make you more attractive? Well, I don't want to lead the witness here. Over to you, Henry.
Oh, go right ahead. Keep going. You're doing well. Well, I think it all began with confidence. Confidence, okay? Because when you would step into this arena, at times, you may, at times in the very early stages, you may doubt yourself a bit. It's only natural. It's like giving your very first speech, okay? But then you pull from the resources around you, as I did. The people who support you, the support group you have developed, even outside of your leadership, immediate leadership team. Because there are people who have been around this organization for quite a long time, and they are very resourceful, and they're always willing to give you advice and help you, okay? Sometimes you will have setbacks, and I just love what they will tell you sometimes. The setback is really a setup for a comeback. So you don't have you sleep on it, wake up the next day, and keep moving forward. You just remember it has a beginning and it has an end. And once you have your vision for the district clearly defined, okay, you will just keep moving forward. You will face challenges, but those challenges are growing pains. And as you strike them one by one, take care of them, just keep in mind why you took this position as a district leader. Servant leadership. It is not about you. It is all about the members. And if you keep that in the forefront of your mind, I am serving the members and I'm going to do what is best for the members, you will be a successful leader for your district. You don't have to make it complicated. Also, there will be battles to fight, but you have to pick your battles carefully. You can't win them all. Actually, this was what Muhammad Ali told me when I met him personally. He said, Henry, you will have battles to fight, and you can't win them all in life. But if you pick your battles, you will be successful. And throughout my leadership, when I started in District 4, when I was a district governor, 2009, 2010, I kept that as my mantra and was able to work through all of the challenges that I faced, I believe, successfully.
Great. Henry, it sounds, again, a very similar vein, of course, with your unique perspective of building confidence in yourself as a leader, handling challenges, handling difficulties, surviving, succeeding, all of those things, which are amazing skills to learn. Now, my favorite question goes to Chandana. Chandana, in many ways, you are the closest to somebody on this call who is considering a district leadership role. So in your 2, perhaps even less years in terms of leadership experience, what are the top 3 things that you have benefited from in your leadership roles in Toastmasters?
So when we all become a club officer, right, when we're serving as a president, VPE, or any of the roles, I think we all primarily learn how to do certain tasks, how to execute them, and how to plan for a small group of people. And so with that confidence, I was a VPE, and then I became an area director. And because I was slightly confident that I knew how to do this, I would be able to do justice to my area director role. But the problem was I didn't know anything about the role. And there was a big fear of unknown because I didn't know what the role was. I didn't know anybody that I was interacting with. And I didn't know why would any club member listen to me when I told them this is what they had to improve or this is what could be beneficial to them. So, but through my journey as an area director, I really learned how to overcome this fear of unknown, right? By learning everything I had to about the area director role and trying to plan better for it and learning to develop personal connections and learning to handle different people and different situations. It has not been easy, but I have learned all of them by simply failing in every single one of these instances. And I think it's very easy to get caught up in trying to become a distinguished area, distinguished club, and ensuring people are doing the things to become, achieve these metrics. But one of the things I've learned as an area director and in this process of overcoming my fear of unknown is it really doesn't matter whether, I mean, you would try to succeed in this role, but at the end of the day, it's the process. So the best way you can learn, as Henry said, is you fail because now you're setting yourself up for a comeback. And once I became a division director, I started, and I was slightly more confident because I was more prepared for my role. I realized that I had a fear of rejection or fear of failure because I still wasn't very confident why people would listen to me, why my team of area directors need to listen to me, because at the end of the day, I might have slightly lesser experience than some of them, or they feel, or it could be several reasons. So again, I've through building these connections with people by identifying a support group, mentors who would help me guide and handle different situations. I've learned through my division. I'm in the process of learning how to handle my fear of rejection and becoming more confident in my role as a leader. And I'm learning how to build my team and how to walk with them and leading them, influencing them, guiding them as needed. So I always like to quote I have a favorite quote. It's called experience, learn, and grow. And that's what the district leadership really allows you to do.
Thank you, Chandana. Again, the confidence is still there, that point that both Faye and Henry made. But I love the way you articulate that essentially failure illuminates a path to success if you believe in yourself and your willingness to fail to progress further. That's a wonderful message. In my life, in my experience, the only way I know how to avoid failure is to do absolutely nothing. Okay? And that's not really an option. Thanks for those stories. Now, a general question to the panel. And so the original point was, well, what's in it for you as individuals? What do you think is in it for the district? Or maybe what are the best contributions we can make as leaders to the district? And we have time for one person to respond that. If you're ready to respond, just begin to speak. I'm going to pick a volunteer here, and her name is Faye, because I love your experience. So what do you think is the best contribution we as Toastmasters can make to the success of the division? You know, what thoughts bubble to the front of your mind?
Well, I like to go back to what Henry said, is that it's the people that we're serving. And it's really down to the members and what they get out of their experience with Toastmasters. So you want to make sure that everybody, no matter what pace they're going at, no matter what environment, what kind of club they're in, everybody grows. Whether they are focused more on speaking or leadership, but they have an opportunity to grow, that you encourage them to grow, to overcome their fears, just as many of our own mentors, as Chanda had mentioned, have helped us to overcome our fears and to boost us up and build that confidence to know that we can do something. And especially with Toastmasters, we can try and fail and do it better the next time. So I think the key thing is to start from the membership level, and with members that grow and build their skills, then they step up and build confidence, and they become the leaders that then help to, again, lift the whole district up, to build our district, to make us successful, whether it is purely from the metric standpoint or from offering, for instance, or organizing many of the different events that we have. Those take district leaders to help organize and to even facilitate some of these or offer some of these workshops that many of us in the district learn from. So we learn a lot from Henry Miller and Rita, who's on the call too. You know, they are now in positions where they have learned so much through their years of just experience, and as well as Toastmasters, that they're sharing it with everybody. And so it really starts from the bottom and everybody grows together.
Right, a great summary on servant-based leadership. And I'm going to have a little bit of a plug here for Henry and Rita, because you mentioned them. And the other characteristic of these two people in my mind, and many others, is their generosity with their time to help others, to share what they have stumbled over, but learned along the way, to shorten the rest of our cycles to success. I just want to acknowledge that it's a key element that I see in spades in Toastmasters. Now, I'd like to move to the third section of our discussion this evening. And as a reminder, let's say now we want to move forward. We want to join the district leadership in some capacity, in any capacity. How do we go about that? And we're fortunate to have our past district director, Pavan, on the call, and he has generously offered to help with this question. So Pavan, I am so fired up listening to these motivating people. What do I do?
Okay, thank you so much, Declan. What do you do? Well, all you have to do is open up your email and send an email to dlc@d101tm.org. Now, let me talk a little bit more about that. So I'm the District Leadership Committee Chair for this upcoming year, 2021-22. And right now, we are in the process of collecting applications for the various positions like what Faye and Chandana mentioned. It's all the way from district director, program quality, club growth to area directors, division director, finance, public relation manager, anything, name a role, and we are building and ready to get your applications and help you become the next district leaders. So if you're interested, we have information on the website. If you go to d101tm.org and click on District 101 top right, and go to District Leader Resources. You will find all the information there. Or another simple way and the easiest way is to email me, which is dlc@d101tm.org. I can have someone type that in the chat window. Faye, if you could just type the email address in the chat window. And I'm more than happy once you text me or send me an email, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you if you need more help in figuring out which role suits you better, and if you need more information or in-depth information about a particular role that you might be interested in. Or even if you're not sure what is the right fit, just feel free to send me an email and we can hop on a phone conversation or a Zoom conversation and we can get you going from that point onwards. Back to you, Declan.
Great, thank you, Pavan. That's very helpful. And of course, information is key for people who want to join. I'm going to ask Chandana, when you were making this original decision, when you were on the cusp, the 75% or the 25%, I don't know where you were, but what information was important to you that helped you make the decision to commit to the leadership role, let's say at the AD level?
I think the first and foremost reason why why I took on the area director role was that I would definitely get credit towards my TTM, right? And that serving in a district position for a year is one of the main requirements. And so that was the final 25% push onto why I really decided to become an area director. But in addition to that, I also had somebody, I didn't have the 101 and the district resources at that point, but I did have a district leader who was in my club, and she guided me. She helped me understand what really you need to become an area director. And so for all of you who are not sure who is that person to you, you could always reach out to Pavan, but also you have your current area directors and other district leaders whom you can definitely reach out to for all the information.
Great, thank you very much. Now, a question that maybe is somewhat related to this, but I'm going to pose it to Henry because I think it's important to know. Sometimes when we think about stepping into the leadership roles, we're concerned, I don't know enough. I haven't done this before, I might fail. Speak to me about, and to the group, about the importance of the mix, having, shall I say, without pejorative intent, senior people and junior people on the team. Just talk about the importance, Henry, of that mix.
Well, one of the things that come to mind immediately is we learn by doing, okay? And one of the things I did was, after I was the president of a couple established clubs with senior individuals before moving into the area director position. So when I remember having a talk with one of a very senior Toastmaster at the time. He was a regional director. And he said to me, Henry, do you know this is a 5-year commitment? So you're going to shut up for a while. You're not going to be competing for a while. Because back then I was I love competing. But I thought about it and I said to myself, it's worth being silent for 5 years. And I enjoyed the area position. And when I became district governor, Diane Vaughan said to me, when you start speaking as a district director or district governor, you will be speaking on steroids. And so throughout my journey, those 5 years, I was able to go step by step and improve my confidence, my ability to connect with audiences. You spoke about WIFM. What's in it for me? All of those things, although I was not focused on those things, it happened.
Right.
So I want to go back to what I said originally, that if you think about it's what you give, you will receive tenfold. And I would like to, I firmly believed that I gained tenfold from those 5 years that I invested in myself and the district.
Great, wonderful. Now, I just want to also reflect a personal experience I've had with you. When I stepped into the AD role for the very first time, I reached out to you, Henry. And part of what I benefited from, and I'd encourage everybody to do this, if you're faced with a situation that you haven't dealt with before, there is somebody in the organization who will help. Henry helped me in my initial challenges in my area director role. And that's the point, actually. We have and we should have a good mix of experience and energy. Experience to guide, energy to commit and move forward. So that's the point. But now, I have gone a little bit over my allocated time. So now I'm going to go to the chat room. And there are a number of questions that people have asked. We won't get to them all. But Pavan, are you still with us? Ah, there you are. This is just so much, it's when you hear the question, you'll know why I ask you. How important is it for potential district leaders to progress through all of the top 3 positions in sequence?
I actually read that question and I thought probably you're going to ask Henry or someone.
Oh.
Okay, how important it is. Yes, we always, at least I'm asked this many times, like, do I really have to do all 3 or can I just do one and the other, etc. I mean, if you go purely by technical basis, yes, Toastmasters there's no mandatory rule that you have to do everything in order in the sequence. But think about it this way. Ultimately, if you want to be the district director, you need to have a good grasp on all the issues and challenges that the district faces. And you need to have a good handle on what each of the job entails or what each role entails. And what I have personally realized, having been through club growth and program quality, is that as you progress, you learn a lot of things and you can only get better. Because ultimately, when I became the district director, I knew exactly what happens in club growth. I knew exactly what happens in program quality. And that actually gave me an opportunity to be able to guide my fellow team members accordingly. So Yeah, so I mean, I strongly suggest to do all the three roles and do it in sequence, so that it actually makes you a better leader by the time you get to district director. And like I believe Henry or Faye mentioned this earlier, the skill set is so different. I mean, in a club growth director role, you're dealing with marketing and you can call it advertising, etc., and trying to revive clubs and launch new clubs, etc. Now, in program quality, you're focused more on the educational aspect and the events and all that. So the skill set that you gain is so different between the two. And then district director, of course, I mean, it includes a lot more with regards to managing finances, supervising everything that happens in the day-to-day operations of the district. So if you really would like to gain all the skill set, then I strongly suggest that you pick all of the roles in order. I don't know if Henry would like to add anything based on his experience.
He may like to add something based on his experience, but I don't want him to add anything based on his experience. Thank you, Pavan. And the reason I do have a question that I'd like to
Sure.
pose to Henry and others, and we're almost out of time, so this is our last question. People are concerned about the time commitment these roles will take. From each of you, my panelists, what do you think? And try to be, we're at 6:53 here or 6:54, maybe try to just be very brief. Faye, what's the time commitment look like?
Well, as Henry mentioned, you get what you put in. So while there are people who may put in the bare minimum, but again, that is to just check mark the criteria that they need in order to get their credit, it's really best to invest in yourself and invest in the people you're serving, because I think you get the most out of that. You learn the most out of that. And so when I served in various roles, it wasn't just about visiting a club the minimum twice or 4 times a year. It was really visit when I can make it, visit during their special events, get to know the people, because I did see in one of the chat questions is, well, how do I find a successor for my AD role? And it's those visits, getting to know those people in all your clubs and seeing who it has a strength in a certain area. And then once you get to know that person, you can start talking to them and motivating them and say, hey, have you considered, I think you'd be really good at this. You know, you've done X, Y, Z. I think this is your next step. And so I think that I've lost my train of thought. This is a bad table topic for me. But I think if you put in a little bit more effort than is required, again, it's volunteer, so nobody's expecting you to spend hours and hours and hours on it, but if you want to, you can, and that would just make you a stronger leader. So it's really dependent on each person, but I highly recommend spending time to really build your leadership role in whoever your team is, with the team that you're leading.
Great, thank you, Faye. Now, in the interest of time, Henry or Chandana, if you have something incremental to add, please do so. But otherwise, I'll hand it back to
one thing I would like to add is that you don't react. Don't be reactionary. It can wait. Look at the situation, sleep on it, but make sure you respond. Make a commitment and respond. Do not, it can wait. Doesn't have to, you have a period of time to resolve issues. Does not have to be taken care of right away.
So manage the time, manage the problem. Chandana?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing that as Faye mentioned, it's really the time that you put in, but don't try to overdo it by being a club officer, serving in multiple roles. Really just pick one role and try to do as much justice as you can. And that way you're not overloading or getting burnt out in the process, and you get to enjoy it.
Great, great. Now I'll hand back to Ravina, just having taken a little bit of her time. Ravina, back to you.
Well, thank you, Declan. Thank you to the panel members as well, Faye, Henry, and Chandana. And thank you, Pavan, for joining us as a guest. We really appreciate it. I hope that you all feel inspired to take on a district leadership role, because I've taken one up and I learned a lot in the process. There's also things that we didn't like. You learn about software and you learn about many things that the panel can't necessarily cover, you know, but I think it's a wonderful way to grow. I will say that we will be sending out information. We will be sending out links to the leadership handbook and what Pavan mentioned, you know, how you can find out more information. We'll send you that in a follow-up email, and please do contact Pavan or contact anyone, you know, your area director, as was said, or any one of us, and we'd be happy to talk to you. So if there are no questions, we just want to launch one more poll. Yes, Arnie, you
Yes, yeah.
quickly launch the poll.
Briefly, cover to all the panelists. What's the best measure of how effective and successful leader you are in either district, division, area, or club level? That's point number one. Number two, it seems that there's no particular skill you bring into the job. I heard Mr. Miller said, learn by doing. And Chandana said, from experience. And Faye said, nuts and bolts, you learn it from the job. So there's no skill you need to do all these jobs. And number three, there's no such thing as universal leadership. It's not cosmic, it's not globalized, it's not generic, but it's something individual. Mr. Miller is different from Ms. Barber's style of leadership, and Faye different from Ms. Chandana. So I don't, it's something very subjective, individually, and very personal. Your comments, sir.
Thank you for that. If you could take a few minutes and just complete the poll, that would be wonderful. And we will contact you and let you know, once we get your name in, knowing that you are interested.